job tonight is to kind of walk you back through the timeline, back from when Answers was just an idea. God always knew that Answers was going to be here, but it had to be placed in the heart of somebody that was willing to obey and move forward. So in October of 2009, I got this email, and this came on the heels of Joanna and I both working for a pregnancy resource center, and then that pregnancy resource center getting closed in our local area, and us really having our hearts broken and trying to figure out what it is God wanted us to do next. So one day I get this email, and it says, "Hey, not sure I completely understand what all this means, but God has been pressing me to get some thoughts on paper. That may be all this is and nothing more, but I wanted to share it with you anyways. You'll find some attachments that are very rough, but it will give you an idea where I think I see God leading." That was, like I said, October 2009, and here we are in 2020. And it's a little bit difficult for me not to get emotional when I think about who we were then, when I think about what God has done between then and now. Now, attached to that email was our original mission statement. And the original mission was to offer hope and restoration to women who are facing choices or concerns regarding pregnancy, family dynamics, or past hurts from abortion, abuse, or other sources of pain. Answers will provide information and referrals to help women make educated choices regarding their situation. Our ultimate goal is to lead families to knowledge and understanding of making Jesus Christ their personal Lord and Savior, as He is the only true answer. So that was our original mission statement. In 2011, the doors actually opened at our first location, and we were renting this little part of a building downtown, and it was just so tiny and so quaint, and I see a few faces that remember what that little building was like, and it was just a precious time. That first year, we saw 50 clients. That was it, our first year. In 2013, we opened our Keystone office, and we actually occupied what used to be the health department. So I don't know if any of you remember that, but there used to be a health department in Keystone Heights, and it shut down many years ago, and so that was the building that we took over. And it was very interesting because the same little office where Joanna and I sit now was the same office that we would go when we were young moms, and we would go see the doctor, and we would go in, and at that time in our life, we would pick up our WIC checks, and so it's very humbling to sit in that same office and offer services to women and families that are in need. So that's one really cool full circle moment. Well, about 2015, a rash of suicides occurred in Keystone Heights, and it was discovered that there was actually a pact of suicides, that teenagers had made a plan to take their lives. Few of them were successful, and there was a plan for even more to continue this. And at that point, it became evident that we needed to do something more. And through that, the Beat Girls Club was formed. It stands for Becoming Empowered Assertive Teens. It started with just a senior high chapter at Keystone Heights High School. And the goal was to build relationships with teenagers and build trust with them so that maybe before they reach crisis, we already had relationships, so that maybe we could prevent something like that from happening again. Fast forward to 2018, and we open our Stark office. That was so exciting because the Stark office is actually our own building. So we got to go through the process of gutting it, and we had the most amazing volunteers come in. And some of you were here for that banquet as we were announcing that it was going to open, and then when we announced that it was open. So we have this beautiful building in Stark now so that we could reach out to Bradford County. And that was a really great full circle moment because that was where the little office was shut down that she and I worked for. That's where our hearts were broken because all these women were left with no resources. And God put us right next to the high school. I mean, literally, our yards are separated by a fence, their parking lot and our parking lot. So, again, another amazing full circle moment. Also, in 2018, we became medical, and that's kind of when I started peeking back into the picture. So at this point, we were able to start offering some medical services to our clients. One of the things that we received was a donation of an ultrasound machine. So that gave us the ability to do ultrasounds. Most women are not seen by a doctor until they're somewhere around 12 weeks. So this gave us the ability to do ultrasound sooner and to help women that had limited access to health care or did not know exactly what they were going to do. So it became a great tool for us to use to help clients in the community, to help women. So we fast forward to 2019, which was last year, and this is the year that just really exploded. We have seen God do so much in 1 year. And that's where I really want to pick up with you and get you all caught up to date, because this has been an amazing year. So in 2019, we had 1,825 client contacts. So think back 50, our first year, 1,825. We got all of our ultrasound training done so that we were able to offer ultrasound on our own, meaning that anytime our doors were open, that a woman needing an ultrasound could come in and get one. We also became an HIV testing site, and actually just got our waiver. We'll become a rapid testing site so people don't have to wait a couple of weeks to find out the results. They can find out immediately. On the way, we have some other STD testing, and also we've partnered with the health department to offer hepatitis A immunizations because of the recent outbreaks that have occurred. Probably one of the most exciting things to me, though, is that we are now up to 5 Beat Girls Clubs. So we started with one, the senior high chapter at Keystone Heights High School. Now we have a senior high chapter at Keystone Heights High School, a junior high chapter. We have a Beat Girls Club at Bradford High School. We have a Beat Girls Club at Bradford Middle School. And our newest Beat Club is actually in the inner city part of Gainesville at North Central Florida Charter School. And we've been approached by some principals about possibly offering some Beat Clubs to some 5th and 6th graders. So this is huge. This is tremendous growth. It's just so exciting, yes. So with that, that means that we have had 1,000 contacts with teens through Beat Club this year. 1,000 opportunities that we've had to pour into the life of young women. Along with that, we have been able to start dealing with some of the issues that we've been seeing earlier, before they become women that are already set in a lifestyle of brokenness, maybe to give them healing earlier. One story that comes to mind, we had a young lady in our Beat Club, and when she initially started coming, she would sit in the back row with her head down. She never would engage, and she always came, but she never engaged. And we found out that she was really struggling with anxiety and some coping issues in her family. And through that connection with Beat Girls Club, we were able to get her connected with a licensed mental health counselor. And not long after that, she started engaging. She started sitting in the front row. She was smiling. She was answering questions. She was even inviting friends. So this was just a complete turnaround from the girl that she was when she first came in to Beat Girls Club. So that was just, we watched it before our eyes. It was just such a beautiful thing to know that if Beat Girls Club had not been there, then she may not have been able to receive that help. And who knows how many years down the road she would have gone through, stuck in this pattern of anxiety and mental illness. The biggest update is that it's not really a big update, but it's one that I feel the need to reiterate year after year, is that we're not just a pregnancy center. If you look on your RAT card, you'll see that pregnancy is not even in the top 3 of the situations that we deal with. We deal with domestic abuse situations. We deal with homelessness. We deal with financial disparity, substance abuse. There's so many other issues that we deal with in addition to the pregnancy-related services that we're offering. So as we look forward, and I don't want to steal any of Joanna's thunder when she gets up and speaks, but I'm going to give you just a little bit of a taste of where we think we're going in the future, the 2020 vision. So 3 things that are in the works is, first of all, we have our GROW program, Generating Real Opportunities for Women. We've applied for a grant through the Women's Giving Alliance that would help us build out for 2 years and hopefully establish a program that is sustainable and that can be duplicated in other areas. And with this program, we would be able to offer employment and housing for 2 women per 6 months that would allow them to build the job skills, build a resume. It would provide them with interview clothing. It would provide them with gas cards to get to and from interviews, because the goal is to break the cycle of poverty, to pull these women out of this cycle and get them to a place where they're self-sufficient and they're not dependent on state assistance. So that's a really exciting thing that's coming this year. Another thing we've been working with in partnership with UF is to build our intern program, so we can start bringing some interns in to get involved and let them get the experience working in kind of like a public health, community health setting, to expose them to what's going on and how they might be able to bring some of their fresh ideas and solve some of the problems. We also have a brand new ultrasound machine coming, and this is just, I'm so excited about this. St. William's Church, Catholic Church here in Keystone Heights, and the Knights of Columbus chapter in this area have pulled together to help us, and we have on the way, I would say within a month, a brand new portable ultrasound machine that would have cost us $25,000 if we did try to purchase it ourselves. And so this is huge. What this means is that we can go to the women. If they can't get to us, we can go to them. So along with that is the vision of there are communities that are not being reached. And we are not in a place where we can just go start popping up different, a building, an actual brick and mortar building in all these little small towns. So the vision is to go mobile. And, in some of these surrounding towns and rural areas, maybe we'll be in this area the 4th Thursday of the month, and maybe we'll be in that area the 5th Thursday or the 5th Friday of the month. But for us to be able to expand our services that way and reach the communities that we're not reaching yet. So at this point, I have been charged with introducing our real speaker, our keynote speaker. And this is the part I'm going to try not to get emotional about. Anyways, first I'm going to introduce the Joanna Weldon that you know. You know her as my boss and a coworker to me. You know her as the visionary and the brains behind everything that you see manifested up here. You know her as a mom to Chandler and to Jules and to Hudson, and a wife to Brian. You know her because she grew up here. She's been here her whole life. But what you don't know is that Joanna and I met when she was in 9th grade and I was in 11th grade in Miss Velez's French class. And she was just a wide-eyed, prim and proper 9th grader, and I think I wore boots and shorts to school that day. But what you also don't know about Joanna is she was the one that sat on the porch with me the first time I tried to let a child cry themselves to sleep, because I had never done that before. And all of a sudden I had a child I didn't know how to handle, and I was losing my mind. And she took me by the hand and she took me out on the porch and she said, "You got to sit here for just a minute and not hear that baby crying, or you're going to lose it." Nobody had ever told me that. And she was there to do that. She was there when we took an Easter basket to the psych ward for a client that we've been praying about and trying to minister to. She was there when we were giving a drug-ravaged client a ride to a doctor's office, and I had one of the wildest dirt road rides of my life because she was back there flipping a switchblade. The girl was in the back seat, and I couldn't see it, and Joanna was just trying to get us where we could go as fast as she could. She was the one that delivered wound care supplies to a mama who had fled a domestic abuse situation, who her daughter had an infected rash that she couldn't afford the the supplies for. And 9 o'clock at night, she and I delivered those supplies to that mama. She's the person that has showed up at the hospital at the birth of babies for young women that there was no support for. She went to the hospital with them. She is the woman that knows the details of my lunch so well that she can order it from any restaurant in the area down to what I'm drinking and exactly what I want it seasoned with. She's detail-oriented like that. She's the woman that's helped me war over my children and family and friends in prayer. She's a problem solver. I don't know if you've noticed, but when Joanna's listened to you, she's constantly thinking about how she can solve that problem. See, I don't think that way. I just kind of listen to you, and she's like working it out. And I'm trying to become more like her in that. But more than anything, she is my friend. She got in the pit with me during the darkest season of my life. She prayed over me. She didn't give up on me. She kept calling me and texting me even when I ignored her. And I can tell you that not only would I not be here in this position of director of nursing, but I probably wouldn't be here on earth if she hadn't have listened to Jesus and not given up. So without any further ado, I want to introduce to you my friend and CEO of Answers, Joanna Weldon.
Good evening. I feel extremely humbled to get up after that introduction. Before I say anything tonight, will you bow with me and pray? God, I am just in awe of you to see the number of people who aren't here just to show up to see who decorated what table, but I really believe that we're sitting in a room full of people who really care. So, Father, as I share tonight, I just pray that you would give me the words that you want everyone in this room to hear tonight. I set aside any agenda, and I give you the reins because you are so much better at this than I am. In Jesus' name, amen. So, in light of our 10 years, it is so hard to believe that I have sat in awe for days, really, but especially today. Like, today's the day. It's our 10th banquet. Some of you were there for that very first one. We were at Community Church in their Family Life Center, and I think we had like 150 people maybe. And that felt so special and so amazing. And yet every single year, God has somehow made the next one even better and the next one even better. But tonight, when you think about 10 years, that's a decade. Like, there's just something substantially different when you think about a decade of time. And so when I started thinking about this past decade, and thinking about the fact that, a decade ago, I had a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. Like, wait a second, that is just so, when you think about it like that, you know how it has a different weight. And so that made me think about the decade before. How did we get to the beginning of that 2009, 2010, the vision that God placed in my heart? How did I ever get there? And so tonight, I really feel like you need to know the story of that, because you kind of heard that 10-year update, if you will. I didn't tell her I was going to do this, so just very quickly, Juliana, will you come up here for 1 second? Really quick. She's so mad. So mad. But she doesn't have to say anything. The only reason I brought her up here is because I wanted you to get a picture of me when I was about 16 years old. Because this is me, literally. So I just wanted you to see. You can go. And I did that, though, because can you imagine 20 years ago, when I was 16, being my mom And me coming and saying, Mom, I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do. Or can you imagine being my teacher and hearing the rumor, oh, wow, Joanna, did you hear? And it's not, I don't even mean like a gossipy, let's all talk about this, though there was some of that. But what the overall emotion when that happened for anybody that knew me in my life was they were worried. They were sad in some ways for me. It took a long time to get to the part where there was an actual baby to be seen and be excited about. There are months and months that go by where when people see a 16-year-old girl, it looks like her life is over. It looks like every dream and every aspiration, everything that people saw in me, it looked like it was over. And it felt like it was in a lot of ways. But God was starting something right then that felt like a mistake, and it felt like the end. It was the beginning of this. And part of the reason I wanted to paint that picture is because when you look at all of these things behind me, sexual abuse, addiction, mental illness, abortion, domestic violence, homelessness, these are ugly things that people are carrying, that people are dealing with, and we don't really know what to do with all of that. It feels like too much. It feels so big. But what if these situations were the beginning of somebody's story? What if these situations were the beginning of somebody's ministry? And another thing that came to me, and I know everybody has different beliefs. For me, in my life, if you had walked in my shoes and lived what I've lived, then Jesus would be very, very real to you. And if he's not, that's okay, but that's just who I am, so I can't talk about it any other way except for that. But I know for a fact that from the time that I was conceived in my mother's womb, that the enemy, Satan, had a plan, just like God had a plan. And he had a plan to steal, to kill, and to destroy my life and my destiny. And if I could tell you all the details of my story, I would. I won't tonight. But my point is, you don't know what led up to some of these situations. Nobody really knows what led up to an unplanned pregnancy at the age of 16, because nobody, but maybe a select few, know any of us well enough to know the details of why we end up where we do, why we choose what we do. But part of tonight for me is I just want to take the mask off. And I feel like if the 400-something people in this room also chose to take the mask off, I feel like we could not only change an entire community full of people that are battling things, but I feel like we could sweep across the country and do some really crazy, amazing things. But a lot of times we're embarrassed, we're ashamed, we stay silent, especially if we're Christians, because Christians don't struggle, right? Part of the reason I ended up pregnant at 16 is because who was I talking to? Who did I have to go to? I didn't feel like I had anyone, at least, because nobody had taken their mask off. This morning, as I was preparing and reading, I was reading in Acts 3, and it's the story about the lame man. And I believe it was Peter and John. I probably got it wrong, so y'all can just go ahead and mark that as something I didn't get right biblically. However, it was some disciples. But they came across this lame man, and the Bible said that he was lame since birth. And then when they went to carry him through, people started saying, what did he do? I wonder why he's like that. I wonder what his family did. I wonder. Everybody wanted something specific to blame it on. And it made me think about how much we all do that. Oh, I wonder I wonder if that girl is that. Or I wonder if they're married. Oh, I wonder if they're living together. We wonder all of these things that are completely useless and a waste of our time, and we get caught up in it. Me too. I do the same thing, so I'm preaching to myself. But part of what I love is it answers. It is like all bets are off. You come as you are. The messier, the better. And that is only by the grace of God. I don't know how God created something so magnificently wonderful, but he did. And he lets us be a part of it every day. One of my favorite scriptures talks about what the enemy meant for evil, God will use for good. And I see that. I see that so often. Why do I tell you all of this? What's the point? We know that God is a God of restoration. We see it every day at Answers, but you don't get the inside track. But I want to leave you tonight with a way to be a part of this, because most of you have full-time jobs. Most of you have children, families that you're taking care of. You can't go into full-time ministry. Maybe that's not what you're even called to do. But maybe something about tonight is pricking your spirit just enough to say, I don't know, that sounds different. That sounds like things are happening. When you look at our numbers, I mean, we went from 50 10 years ago to 1,825. I don't even know. Y'all, I don't know. And let me give you these numbers. Out of that 1,825 from last year, guess how many staff and volunteers we had to do that? We had 3 paid staff, and we had 10 full-time volunteers. We need you. We need our community. Whether it is to volunteer your time, whether it is to talk about us all the time. Talk. Everywhere you go, did you know this is going on? Did you hear about this? Because it might not be you that can volunteer. It might not be you that can write a big check, or a small check for that matter. But the more people that understand that this is a movement, there are people who literally felt like there was no hope, can walk in the doors of an organization and leave at the end of their session smiling and have a game plan of what they're going to do next and how to move forward. And not only that, they have somebody to link arms with them and to walk alongside them and to remind them, like Tiffany said, you're not alone. You're not alone. We always feel like we're the only one. And when somebody can find out that they're not the only one, they begin, what happens is hope begins to well up. Hope begins to well up. All of us have felt hopeless at one point or another, and all of us can remember that one person, that one conversation that reignited that hope, that made you remember truth. We get to do this, guys, and we get to do it with people that are not going to church. They're not going to listen to a Sunday sermon. They stink. They're not pretty all the time. I keep Lysol in my drawer at work because that's just what we do. And yet when they're there, all I can tell you is God gives us the ability to truly look and see each and every person, and it is like we don't smell the stench. We don't see with our outward eyes. God gives us a spiritual sight to see how much he loves them. And then he does this supernatural thing, and he lets us love them. It's like an automatic, I've not said that out loud, but afterwards I'd say, I just love her, and I don't know why. That is Jesus. That is what he does for us. So, right now, as far as support, as far as financial support, because that is a big piece of the puzzle that is an uphill battle. One of the numbers that I kind of uncovered I didn't even know the answer to this. We have 18 churches locally between Stark and Keystone, those surrounding areas, that are consistent supporters. They give recurring. And then we have 46 individuals and families across our communities. So tonight I would encourage you to think about that. Look at the numbers and what we did with that amount of support. What if we were able to increase those numbers? What if our volunteer base doubled in size and we would still only be 20 volunteers? That's crazy talk. But still, if we could do that with 10, we can do a lot with 20. So as I close tonight, I want to remind you, I want to remind us as a community. I kind of get this picture, and I read this in a book one time. I didn't make this up, but I was going to steal it, and then I thought, no, I should give credit. So anyway, I read this. But it talked about kind of just this dream that she had, and she imagined herself and ourselves. Let's us imagine tonight together as I close that we're on a cruise ship. That's a happy place to be, right? Everybody has their little umbrella drink and all the free food you want. So let us imagine us being on this cruise ship. And then all of a sudden, we're going to pretend Tiffany is at the other end of the cruise ship, and she starts readying the lifeboat. And then she starts waving her arms. And she's serious. This isn't a joke. Frantic. Come to the lifeboat. The ship, it's going down. Well, nobody moves. And I'm looking at Tiffany going, well, I know Tiffany. I trust Tiffany. Maybe I should. And I start to move toward the lifeboat because I don't want to go down. But then I look around and nobody else is moving. Nobody else is taking this seriously. So the majority rules, and I sit back down and enjoy my cruise. And then all of a sudden, here comes Tiffany again. She is relentless, y'all. She's waving her hands frantically. Come, don't stay on this boat. It's gonna sink. I'm telling you, it's gonna sink. I feel like that is where we all live as believers, as a community who cares. We have to be ready to get people on the lifeboat. We can't just look and say, well, gosh, that really, that's a sad story. We have to jump in together, and we have to start pulling the people out of the messes. We can't fix everything, you guys. I know that. But we can fix a lot if we would work together. And I really feel like Answers is yours just as much as it is mine. I got to be the visionary. Big whoop. I just was obedient, okay? All I did was listen to Jesus and said, okay. But where do we go from here? Do we keep pretending that the proverbial the proverbial ship isn't sinking? Do we pretend that our community is like it was 25 years ago? That's up to us. For me, I think about these numbers. They're incredible. 1,825 contacts. Will you help us increase those numbers? Will you help us expand the reaches of what we've already been doing? And I don't mean going above and beyond our means. I know people get a little freaked out about that, like, oh, y'all are doing enough. Are we? I don't think so. I don't even think we're close to catching up with how quickly the tide is turning and how many people are falling prey to situations like these behind me. I think that we are in the slow lane. I want to get in the fast lane. I don't know how long we have here. I don't know how much longer my life is going to be. You know, we all get a certain amount of time, and we don't get to choose it. But I would ask you, what will you do with it? Will you go with us? Will you find those that need the lifeboat, and will you help us build some bigger lifeboats? Thank you.
So can we just take a moment and take some of that in? So you've heard what's happened in 10 years. 10. That's a fifth grader. I want you to think about, what would you like for the next 10 years? to look like for our community? What if, together, we could eliminate homelessness in Stark and Keystone? What if? What if, together, we could help struggling people struggling with mental illness get the services they need? What if we could change it in 10 years? Tiffany told you about her relationship with Joanna. I've known Joanna since we were playing with Barbies. And when we were 4, we bonded over dress-up clothes and making pretend. These days, we are drawn together by the common desire to pull together our communities to see hurting people find purpose and peace and wholeness. If you look around our communities, there is a lot of hurt and brokenness, and it often feels overwhelming, right? When we look at these words, it's overwhelming. When we see how our community has changed over the last 10, 20, 30 years, it's overwhelming. But we are seeing and finding that if everyone works together and just does their little bit, God does amazing things with little bits. So when you came in tonight, there was this beautiful teal program in your seat, and it had an envelope with a pin. And we're going to ask every single person or couple to fill out that top flap where it asks for your name and address and all of that. We want every couple or every person to fill that out. I think it was announced at the beginning of tonight, but you might have missed it, that last year, just from these envelopes, Answers raised $24,000. And I want to give you a little bit of context. I want you to think about some math. So if tonight, there are approximately 400 people here. So if tonight, every person in this room committed to give $5 a month or gave $60 one time, they would raise $24,000. Right? That's one less trip to Dunkin' Donuts every month. Now, if every person gave $25 a month or $300 as a one-time gift, they would raise $120,000. $25 a month, guys. If 50 people in this room, Joanna, did you say you have 46 individuals that are regularly giving a recurring gift? Is that what I heard you say? So if 50 people said they would give $100 a month, they would have $60,000. That's one person at each table, approximately. So you have a circle on your chair on the back of your chair. And it has a word on it, like these words up here. You can rip it off if you want. And it says restored on the back, right? We want to see people's lives turn around like that. And I wonder how many people could be restored if we all gave a little bit. But I also want you to think about this. That it's not just our money, guys. They need the money. That's what this is about, right? Because they're doing good work, and they can do more good work with more money. But what Joanna and I both know, and what she said to you, is it's not just about the money. It's also about all of us deciding that we're going to open our eyes and hearts to make connections with people who look and act differently from us. And the other thing I keep thinking about and I keep noticing is it's the small things, right, that she talked about. The taking our mask off, delivering supplies for wound care, giving somebody a ride to work, showing up at the office to answer the phone for them. So we're going to take some time to fill out our envelopes, and I want you to do that prayerfully. I've already talked to you about filling out this part. And then on the inside, I want you to notice that you have some choices there, okay? So you could give a one-time gift, or you could give a recurring gift. And the recurring gift, that's where the math comes in, right? That's where we get that exponential growth that happens. And if you need some time, you want to consider what you're willing to do, there's that option there too. You also can go ahead, if you want to give an online gift, you can register online to do that. We are going to announce before you leave tonight how much they've raised. And so even if you text a donation or you give your donation online, we want you to write the amount in one of those blanks so that we can tally it up and give you a full, accurate count tonight. So I'm asking you to prayerfully consider. We're really good. I grew up here too. We're really good at talking about what we want to change and what we want to be different. But until we start taking some actions, it isn't going to change. So we're asking you to pray right now, and we're just going to be quiet for a minute. We're asking you to pray and consider what needs to go on this form. And what small things could you do? Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. If you'll fill out that top part and then fill out that section there. God, we have considered what little bit we have to offer. And we are so thankful that you let us play a part. There is so much joy in having the opportunity to obey you. God, I thank you for these gifts. I thank you for this community. I thank you that you can take something small and turn it into something that we will be amazed to see. And you can do it faster than we can imagine. God, I thank you for each person in this room. I thank you for their willingness to listen to what you have to say and to take some action. I thank you for answers. I thank you for their willingness to listen and do what you say. And I ask that you will give them so much wisdom and so much strength and endurance, and that they will grow in amazing ways in the next decade and beyond. We thank you for who you are and the things you do in our lives. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.